Hello, and welcome to the Global War on Terrorism Memorial Podcast, hosted by the American Legion. I'm your host, Jen Ballou, and it's my honor to welcome you home. Today, we are joined by Reverend Dr. Darius Holland. Darius is a pastor of 20 years and a chaplain in the Army Reserves, currently serving as a recruiter. Prior to entering the military, Darius played for 10 seasons as a defensive lineman in the National Football League, winning a Super Bowl with the Green Bay Packers in 1997. Darius has an undergraduate degree from the University of Colorado Boulder, a Master of Theological Studies from Golden Gate Theological Seminary, and a Doctor of Ministry from Gateway Seminary, and one more, a PhD in educational leadership from Liberty University. Darius Holland, welcome home, and thank you so much for being here today.
Jen, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Darius, if it's okay with you, I'd love for you to share a bit with our listeners about how you transitioned from the NFL to an Army chaplain and what that transition was like for you.
Well, there's a little bit of a gap in between NFL and the Army, but one of the things that it's interesting. I've transitioned several times in my adult career, and going from the NFL to church ministry was one of the biggest transitions I had. Simply because you wear the uniform, but people don't understand that that uniform is a part of your identity. As much as we like to say that that uniform isn't us, it's not who we are. It's really a hard thing to dismiss the fact that that uniform brings so much identity to your life. And so playing in the NFL for 10 years, I usually equivalent it to the story that you see from people talking about, like, the drums before the old Trojan Wars. And as soon as the drums go off, the horses knew what time it was. That's how our body feels. It's certain times when we going to go into a football game, our body just kind of responds. Well, that's part of my identity. And having to shed that was difficult, because every time I heard the call, my body was like, it's time to fight. It's time to do something. But I was no longer a player. Transitioning out of the NFL was difficult. It took a few years of trying to find out who I am as a human being, who I am, what's my identity, am I going to do. The beautiful thing was is that I had the church, because I completely gave myself into church ministry, and then from there, it showed all the avenues and places where there were other people like me who were trying to figure out who am I. And that's how I came to be a part of the military, actually. So we had an incident at my house. The police came in. There were basically SWAT officers trying to figure out what was going on behind the house. It was a veteran. He was in the middle of a suicidal ideation. He actually completed that, and the officers, everyone around, you could tell, was really in a bad place. And I just prayed for him, and they're like, "Man, you'd be a great chaplain." And that's what started the process of me realizing there were people in the military who need someone who can help them transition through the different places and different life cycles that we go through. And so that was a natural transition for me. And so that's how I got to be a part of the military and the Army. And it's been a great decision for me and my family.
I'm so glad to hear that, Darius. Thank you for all you do as a chaplain. When I think back to my time in the Army, some of my greatest times and some of my most challenging times, a chaplain was always there, jumping out of airplanes, going out to the field, getting married when Eddie died. Like, there was always a chaplain there. And I'm curious, when you reflect on your service as a chaplain, what's one of the most challenging experience you've had to navigate or help someone navigate, or one of the most challenging?
there's a ton of different moments that are really, really exciting and really, really difficult. I'll give both sides. One of them, I got a chance to marry one of my commanders, and it was an amazing moment because he had gone through so much. As a Green Beret, he had lost a lot of soldiers. He had gone through the ups and downs of his personal life. But then that moment of being reconciled to the woman that he truly loved and cared for was a beautiful moment. And you can see the hope and the glee and just it was such a good moment for us to all experience as a battalion, to see what he was going through. On the flip side, in that same battalion, I had a man who basically was a loving man, a soldier who come back from several tours and is driving home on New Year's Day to see his mother and is in a fatal car accident. And it takes the gas out of everything that you do. You know, it's one thing to lose in war. It's another thing to lose at home. And not by a suicide, but by just it was a bad accident. It takes so much of your faith. It takes so much of your desire to be a minister, to help, to be a part of that process. The only saving grace in that particular case, I had the opportunity to lead him to the Lord. And so his going home ceremony was a celebration. And so those ebbs and flows in military life are all over the place. I mean, you can't minimize those one-off times when you were in the field and it's hot or cold or miserable and it's not fun. And those individuals are gleaning from those moments what you believe and what you trust, and it allows for you to actually do ministry in later days. So it's a happy and sad moment.
Yeah, absolutely. We are so grateful to have you as part of the Global War on Terrorism Memorial Foundation's Design Advisory Council, or DAC. You are one of 23 men and women who serve on the Design Advisory Council, you know, the group of people who are representing those that the memorial will eventually honor. And this was the vision of Rod, who you know very well. I know that he reached out to you directly to invite you to be part of our DAC. And I'm wondering if you think back to that conversation, Darius, what do you remember? What did Rod say to you? And how did you feel about this invitation?
My first statement was, man, I don't know that I'm the right person to be on this board. And I think it wasn't just a humble statement. It was a statement of the fact that you think about all the people who have sacrificed. You think about all the great men and women that are in uniform. You think about what they have done, and you're like, dude, I don't fit in that. I'm just a guy that's an enabler, right? And I sit in the back. Most of the times I try to fade the black, if you will. I wanted him to know I would do anything I could to help him. When I think about my dad who served in Vietnam, when I think about my brothers in Marine, when I think about my uncles and my cousins who've all served, I was like, man, I'm so honored to be a part of that process. And I can just hope that somehow or another my inclusion in the process will make it something that's worthwhile. So I don't know. My emotions are still kind of running a little bit, even as I talk about it, because I think it's such a huge event. You go to the memorial wall for the Vietnam Memorial Wall, and it's overwhelming because of the history. Every time I go there, I want to see my dad's name, even though he did not die there. You know, every time you go, you're expecting to see one of your loved ones on that wall. And so now to be a part of something where I know for a fact I'm going to see people's names on that wall that I know, it's overwhelming. And I know that all I can do is just try my best to advocate, to encourage, to counsel in the best way I know how.
Hmm. Well, I can tell you, Darius, that you absolutely are the right person to be a part of the Design Advisory Council. You are so very humble, just like the other 22 Design Advisory Council members. Rod has shared with me that every single time he made that phone call or had that conversation, the person didn't think like, why me? I'm not the right person. And so I just want to remind you that he asked you because you are the right person. And I'm so grateful that our listeners will get to know you a little bit better and get to know some of the Design Advisory Council members whose words, whose experiences, whose stories have helped shape the design of our future Global War on Terrorism memorial. So thank you. I'm wondering if you could speak to how the Global War on Terrorism has influenced your life.
I can remember the day it started, 9/11. Right? I remember where I was standing. I remember the level of pause it gave me, and to think to myself like, what's next? Um, your normal day is no longer normal because that day will be infamous in your own life. It will never go away. And so now the only thing that I can do is go, well, what do I do in order to support it? At the time, I'm still playing professional football. So all I'm thinking to myself is, well, I better be really good at what I do in honor of what I've had an opportunity to be a part of. It calls you to be a greater American. It calls you to be a greater citizen. It calls you to do more for your country. And at the time, I really didn't have anything to do with the military other than I knew my family members were a part. I knew that was going on. My brother was a Marine. Those things were happening, but I didn't have a part to play in it. You start to realize that all you can do is be supportive of those who are currently serving. At that point, I played for a few more years. Of course, you see the numbers go across the screen as the people who are dying. Then you hear about the surge. You see what's happening both in Iraq and Afghanistan. You see Iraq kind of dwindling. You see Afghanistan kind of being spun up. And all you can think to yourself is, man, I hope I can play a part. So when someone calls you and says, hey, man, I really think you can help in this way, how do you say no? How do you say no to those who were wounded both physically, mentally, emotionally? Um, we start hearing words like PTSD. Now, I didn't know what PTSD was. Simply, when my dad came back from Vietnam, he had the night terrors, right? We didn't call it, we didn't have like a name for it. And those things were going on, and I'm thinking, who else is going to help them navigate those waters? For me, I realized this that I don't really have anything to do with PTSD, but I have to do with something called moral injury. And that's when people start to realize either they were betrayed by their country, betrayed by their commander. They did something that was horrible and they don't know how to deal with it. They think that I murdered someone, so how do I get over that? They know that the Bible is telling them they shouldn't do certain things and they find themselves doing it and they're working through all that. So what a great place for me to stand in the gap and go, wait a minute, let's walk through that. And to see those who are tier one assets down to the regular soldier have someone stand before them and say, wait a minute, that's not what God says about this. Let me walk you through it. And to see that I can unpack what God was intending them to understand and to take that load off of their shoulders, to let them know, like, here's where you need to repent and change, but here's where you were actually in the very design of God in those moments. To hear someone comfort you in that way, to hear someone encourage you in that way, in a time when you're literally having to go back, right back, you're cycling right back into Afghanistan, and you're like, man, I don't know if I can do it. And you're like, wait a minute, let's walk through that. Um, is a very sacred moment. It's a sacred space for you to really help the first line, right? The line guys who are actually doing combat arms. It allows you to help them navigate those waters. And so GWOT as a whole is a huge animal. But my part to take part in is to really help and enable those individuals who are impacted by navigate that and come back whole, right? So many of our friends did not come back physically, or did not come back emotionally, or did not come back mentally. And so for me to be able to bring them home and be like, wait a minute, hey man, let's get back to who you really are. Not let that war impact you in such a way that you can no longer function as a human being, is a part of my service. And I'm so grateful to be a part of it.
We're grateful that you're a part of it too, Darius. I don't know. I know I said the words at the beginning of our time together, welcome home, but I don't know if we've specifically told you that the title of this podcast is Welcome Home, and that we have started saying when we're at the future site of the memorial and people are there for different events, welcome home, because this memorial is going to be home for so many. And I just think it's so beautiful that you started talking about those feelings associated with home. We know that this memorial is going to save lives. We know that for a fact. And I'm wondering, what do you think about that? That this memorial will save lives?
Oh my gosh, having to preside over several funerals where the individual came home physically, but mentally they never came home. It would mean a lot to stop for a moment and think, what if we could have avoided that? What if we could avoid one person from being in a place where they're alone? They're alone in their own dreams. They're alone in their own home. They're alone in their own head. They're no matter where they go, they're alone. And like I said when I first started, I came off being a part of a team. And it was hard because of the fact that as soon as the uniform came off, I had no team. I had no locker room time. I had no buddy time. I had no let's go over here and just jaw jack about the day. I didn't have a grind. I didn't have any part to play in what we do from day to day. And now I'm just standing there. And so to be alone with all those feelings and emotions that you haven't really dealt with is like, man, it's just dangerous. And so to think that now all of a sudden, hey man, we're having an event in DC at the wall, and that event is a ruck march, or that event is we're just going to do a straight up gathering at the memorial and just jaw jack with our old teammates. It does something for people. It does something for me just thinking about the opportunity that one day me and a bunch of guys from 519 on 519 day, that's our unit, right? And we're going like, hey, instead of doing 519 down in Colorado, we're going to go to DC and we're going to ruck the mall and then end at the memorial. And then we're going to celebrate the guys that we lost and remember them. Man, that's huge. It's huge to think like, hey, I got guys that are from, first, third, fifth, seventh, 10th, that they're all the group guys that are like, man, we just need a moment. And so just to have a place where uh, we can gaggle is huge, right? So it's just the one place I think that all of us will know, hey, right here on this bit of earth, we can still call it home. So it's an amazing opportunity to be a part of that.
Darius, what would you say right now to someone listening who feels alone?
Well, the pastor immediately comes out of me, right? I think about a person named Hagar in the Bible in Genesis. She's in probably the hardest part of her life. Her family basically has kicked her out. Her kid is dying in her arms, and she has no idea what she's going to do. There's no food, no water, no nothing. She's kind of given up. She's like, I'm done. And God says, hey, pick up your face, look at me, and basically tells her, I have a hope and a future for you. And it's not this. And that's what I would say to the person that's listening even now. Hey, you're not alone. Pick up your face, listen to the voice that's speaking through your camera, through your TV, through your computer, and is going to say to you, there is a hope and a future for your life. And what you're thinking about is not it. Either your flesh, the enemy, or the world is lying to you. Man, I could name several people right now that if you called them, they would answer. Two of them are on this call right now. Rod is another. They would answer the call immediately to let you know you're not alone. And then we would do everything we had to provide a level of support on ground right where you are so that you would never find yourself to be like, man, I don't know what to do. And that's the part that I want to be a part of, right? Is letting each and every person know they're a phone call away from a friend, a brother, a sister in arms that would literally lay it all down again for them. And so that's my hope, is in those moments that someone would interrupt that cycle and say, hey, man, we're right here. It's going to take me a few hours to get to you, but I'll be there, right? That 3 a.m. phone call that you go, hey, man, I'm here, man. I'll be there in a minute. And you drop everything and go. There's so many of us that will make that call and will respond when we're called.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. That was really powerful. And I was thinking as you were sharing that, Darius, that, as a chaplain, you do so much for so many. You hold space, you bow your head in prayer, you wrap your arms around so many people, and so many men and women share a lot with you and put so much on you. And I'm wondering, like, how do you navigate that? What does your self-care look like? How do you let that go in a healthy way? What are you taught how to do that when you become a chaplain? Like, how does that work?
But that's a great question, and I would say this, that far too often we think our pastors, our caregivers, are invincible supermen or superwomen, and that is just an absolute lie, right? We cry, we are struggling, we are just as fallible, and we hurt just as much as anyone else. I think the difference is that a few things have to happen. One is, I'm going to say, a point of knowledge. If something happens, right, and somebody pulls the fire alarm, we know that we're all supposed to gaggle somewhere. What do we call that, Jen? Remember what that was called? When everybody said the rally point, you knew the rally point, right? And so no matter what happened, no matter what direction you went in to get away from the problem, you knew the rally point. Then you also knew what the 9 line was, what you had to do in order to call for help, right? You knew these things, and they would make you drill them over and over again so that in case something happened, you knew where to go and who to call. Well, as a pastor, I immediately know what my rally point is and who I'm supposed to call. Most of the times when I talk to people, they're in trouble. They don't know who to call. And they think, well, I'm alone, so who do I call? It's 3:00 in the morning. What do I do? The difference is you have been told, hey, man, I'm alone because no one's here. But a person of faith goes, no, the creator of the heavens and the earth says, I see you. In Psalm 139, he says, I knew you before you were born. I knew the steps that you were going to take. That means that he knows you inside and out. He knows how he made you. He knows how you're going to walk and where you're going to be. And he says, the God of all comfort will come and be with you. That's in 2 Corinthians. And so when I think about my current condition, whether happy or sad, I immediately go to my Father and say, Lord, I'm struggling. Today, I had a conversation with one of my friends who's around the world, in a different place. He's a commander, and he's like, Darius. He doesn't start off with it. He goes with pleasantries, start first, and then he says what's really going on. And I stopped the conversation, and I said, well, let's pray. The reason why prayer is so important is not because you called me. It's not because Darius fixed it. It's because we went to the one who could do something about it. And for me, instead of calling my buddy to the left or the right, I'm going to go to the one that can do something about it. And when I am done, when I get up, my hope is restored. Why? Because I took a problem to the place where something can be done about it. When we don't take it to the person that can do something about it, we feel empty, we feel lost, we feel concerned about whether or not we're going to be able to fix the situation. We still have anxiety, where we have fear that anything is going to happen. But when I am done, I have assurance that whatever takes place, my God is involved. And so I don't get up until I'm done. I don't move until I feel sure. I don't leave until my fear has gone away. I don't do anything until I know everything that's in me that's troubling me is going to the one that can do something about it. And that's why they call me. They don't call me to be their friend. They call me to take their problem somewhere. When we walk away, they go, man, it's fixed. That's what they walk away and be like, it's done. It's dealt with, right? That's what they're looking for. They're looking for someone who can intercede on their behalf in a time of trouble and know that trouble has been dealt with. Whether they can see it with their eye or feel it in their heart, they know it's been dealt with. And that's what I do.
Well, I know who I'm calling next time I am feeling down or I need a little boost or a kick in the behind or whatever it is. It's Darius Holland. Darius, why is the Global War on Terrorism Memorial so important and why now?
Oh man, they should have had it up already. I mean, it's been 20 plus years of a conflict that's still ongoing, right? We're still watching people die from this conflict. I'm not going to mention political things here, but one thing that stuck out to me a while ago, they were like, oh, we're no longer in a conflict. And literally, like months later, we see the reservists out in Jordan die. And I thought to myself, like, what are you talking about? We still have people in harm's way. And we're still watching the ramifications of one day in history take place today, 20 plus years later. And so the global war on terror, the memorial is about significance, right? We use numbers all the time when we talk about the fact that we want to make sure people understand the ramification of this decision. And we'll say it costs billions or trillions of dollars. Well, how much is one life? Before we go into the numbers, that's how much is one life? If it's your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your daughter, your son, how much is that life to you? Before I go into like whether or not we should create the wall, what did you do when that person died? You put them in the ground and you put a stone there, a stone of remembrance. Why did you put that stone of remembrance there? You put it there because whenever you have time and you want to stop, you go back there to remember that life that impacted you so much, that made you who you are. How much more should the men and women who've died serving this country in the global war on terror be given the same honor? That when we go to that wall, we remember the sacrifice and the cost that that we have to pay when we live the way we live. and how much those individuals impacted our lives. Not just in that theoretical sense, but in reality, we're now free. We're able to vote the way we want to. We're able to live and earn a wage the way we live and earn a wage, to the benefit, to our own personal benefit and to the benefit of one another. So shouldn't we as a country do the same things we do individually to remember those who paid the cost so that we could have the country that we have?
You've made many important points, but one thing I'd like to highlight that you said is the global war on terrorism is not over. It continues today. And this memorial that we are working on, it absolutely honors those lives that have been lost and the men and women who served and sacrificed so much and the families that supported them. But this memorial is also being built for things in the future that haven't even happened yet. And so thank you for mentioning that. Something else I think is really cool. I know you're familiar with the foundation's tenets of honor, heal, empower, and unite. But without me even asking you any specific questions about those tenets, during our conversation, you've pretty much hit on each and every one of them. And so I just thought it would be nice to kind of tie that up and mention to our listeners that the foundation's tenets, or like our guiding stars, if you will, are honor, heal, empower, and unite. And when I mention those words, Darius, what comes up for you?
The key part for me is the empowerment. You can't unite without it. You can't heal without it, right? It's you can't even honor without it, right? So honoring is about giving that which you feel should be esteemed the right privilege, the right deference that's deserving. If I'm not empowered to do so, I can't do it. If I don't really heal myself, right, I can't do it. The empowerment is huge, right? Why empowerment? And why am I keying in on that of all the four? How many times have we watched a conflict, whether in war or in live stream, where we see someone who is in desperate need and they're calling for any and all help, right? The broken arrow moment. I need help now, right? If you don't have anyone that can empower you in that moment, your hope is gone. Your thought of what's going to happen next is all negative. But when I call out broken arrow, when I say, hey, this thing is beyond what I can do, anyone who has the power to affect change right now, I need you. Any asset within the hearing of my voice, I need you to come and effect change in my circumstance. I think when we think about global war on terror as the memorial in and of itself, it is a place where everyone is going to know it meant so much to us to build this wall, to build this memorial, to remind our people who have died, who are living, and who will come, that this is what we would do for those who have sacrificed and given the eternal cost. What do you think we're going to do when you come and threaten that? That's the part that people don't realize. When someone comes to see the memorial and they see the magnificence and the greatness of what we have done on that memorial, they're in the back of the mind, they have to think to themselves, if this is what they would do to honor them when they're dead, what are they going to do when you threaten them when they're alive? So memorials have a big impact on us. It has a big impact on anyone who decides to threaten the country. It also is a reminder for those who are currently working through that healing process and coming home. Hey, you can come here and know that you will find the power to get healed. You will have the knowledge that you're being honored, and you know full well that at the end of this, we will be united around that. And so that's a beautiful part about being a part of this Global War on Terror Memorial Foundation. It's just amazing.
It is. It truly is. And so my last question for you today, Darius, is if you can imagine the first time that you visit the memorial when it's complete, what do you hope to feel?
Ooh, I don't know that I hope to feel. I hope that I can bring my entire family there with me. Um, because my kids haven't had a chance to really see what I've been a part of. They get it a little bit because they're on base or whatever. They have some of the customs and courtesies that they see. They see the uniform, they see the ups and downs, but rarely do they see the actual result. They don't get to see what they have sacrificed for. And they don't get to see the investment actually produce anything other than conversation around the dinner table. But when they go to the memorial, and I remember taking them to the memorial, my kids were walking, and kids don't have any clue. And of course, we get to the Vietnam Memorial Wall, and it was like everything slows down. Again, every time I go there, I just expect to see my dad's name. Well, now my kids are going to be able to follow in the footsteps and know, hey, this is what my family sacrificed for. This is why dad wasn't home those weeks, days, months. This is why he wasn't able to sit with me on that birthday day or that Christmas day or that Thanksgiving day. This is why. I don't expect to feel, I expect to be able to show my family, hey, this is why we did what we did. And to be able to let them know that it was worth it. It was worth giving our time and our sacrifice and missing birthdays and missing holidays. It was worth it. And for me, I think that will be the first time I go there, and I'm expecting a lot of tears, a lot of emotion. But I know for one thing, my kids will finally be able to go, I get it now.
It was worth it. Wow, Darius. Thank you so very much for your time today, for your encouragement, for in allowing both myself and the listeners to consider the impact, the power of our connection to something, someone so much greater than ourselves. There were so many powerful messages that you shared with us today. I, for one, can't wait to listen to this episode again and again, because I just really feel like there were so many beautiful messages that you shared with us today. So thank you so much. Is there anything else that you want to say or mention before we close out?
Absolutely. The units that I've been a part of, most of them have been soft. And one of the main things that you will hear them say is DOL, depresso liber. And what it means, it means to free the oppressed. As a chaplain, that is my greatest joy, to see someone go from being overwhelmed in the spiritual realm, being morally bankrupt, to walking away knowing that there is a reserve in the spiritual realm that is more than whatever they need or can ask for. And so if I would leave them with anything, know this: you are no longer slave. You are no longer bound. Be free. And if you don't understand the fullness of what I'm talking about, please give me a call. I would love to walk you through it. God bless you. I love you. And if you need anything, I'm here.
Reverend Dr. Darius Holland, thank you. Welcome home.
Thank you.
Welcome Home is produced by Jennifer Blum, Holly Soria, and me, Jennifer Ballou. Our operations manager is Henry Howard. Art for Welcome Home is by Minerva Consulting. Our theme, A Place Like Home, is by Birgensen Lundberg via Epidemic Sound. Mixing and editing is by Jennifer Blum. Thank you to Tango Alpha Lima Podcast and the American Legion for their collaboration on this inaugural series. You can find their episodes, guests, and more at legion.org/Tango Alpha Lima. You can find out more about the Global War on Terrorism Memorial Foundation, get updates on the National War Memorial, and learn how you can get involved by following us on your favorite social media platforms or by visiting GWOT Memorial Foundation.org.